the live unedited edition. Home Gadget Geeks. It is Thursday, October 24th, 2019. If you're listening to this any other time than 8 p.m. in the Central Time Zone or 3 a.m. in Berlin, right? I think what time zone officially is that? Yes,
I think Central European time.
Central European. Okay, so 3 a.m. That means you've got the recorded version, and that's okay. Don't go anywhere. We're going to get started here in about 3 minutes. You've probably landed on our live page if you're hearing this, because we edit this part out for the live program. But we want to thank you for joining us tonight. If you out in the chat room, I doubt we never, because of our time slot, we never get anybody in Europe, but we do the United States and Australia pretty well. So if you're out there in the chat room, just check in. Let us know you're out there listening. We're in pre-show, and we'll get started here in 2 or 3 minutes. Just so now you have enough time. Pop some popcorn, get a drink, get a 5-hour energy. Yes, if you need one, you might need one by the end of the night. I'm trying.
All good. Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah. In fact, Anthony or Tony Rayner in the chat room, he is responsible. He reached out to Frank originally.
Of course. That's him.
So
yes.
he gets credit for this one, as he does with a few
Kudos.
of ours. Yeah. So good job. So so Justin, are you out there? Did you make it to the chat room? Maybe we'll do this segment before the show starts. So Justin, just put in the chat room that you're here. I want to talk to you about this rum before we start the show. Or Tony says he's got to get up. He has to get up at 4 a.m. to leave for work. So about the time we get done here, you're going to go right to bed, I'm sure. Hopefully you get a chance to sleep in a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah, hopefully you do. Justin,
we work from home. I mean, we have an office here in Berlin, but I will only go if I want to. And
that is kind of nice.
Probably will not be very motivated tomorrow.
No, I wouldn't. You tell him you're on a big important podcast. And that
exactly.
So Justin, so often in the pre-show, we kind of do a segment, what are you drinking? And so I've got a pretty standard Blue Moon tonight. So Mike, what do you got? What are you drinking?
I'm doing a Sam Adams Boston Lager. Oktoberfest.
Oktoberfest. Ooh, good call. Few of those still left. Jos, what do you drink at this hour in the morning?
Something very German, actually. I'm drinking water with bubbles.
Yeah.
Now, Germans would probably put some apple juice in it and then call it Apfelschorle or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I actually have grown to like it. I used to find the whole idea of bubbles in water rather ridiculous, as same with mixing in fruit, but it's grown on me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, as when you're in Germany, do as the Germans, right?
Exactly.
Justin, I cracked open the Bundaberg that you sent. We talked a little bit about this last week. This is Australian rum, and it is maybe the most awful rum that I've ever had. I'm now, okay, to be fair, he sent me a video where they made fun of it, and it's pretty awful, and they call it some bad things in the video. It lives up to all its names. It is so. So go back to Home Gadget Geeks HGG420. That's last week's in the show notes. The link to that video if you want to see it. So I asked him. I said, "Do you cut it like you drink it neat? Is it And he's like, "Well, you probably want to cut it with some Coke or something." So, Justin, there you go. I've got it in the Coke, and like coming in on it's not even good. You kind of, usually you're like, and you're kind of, so. Oh, Justin, there you go. Wow. I thought paint thinner was bad. Now, why I would be drinking paint thinner and know that, I don't know.
I was about to ask.
Yeah.
Justin, thanks again for sending this. Mike, next party next time I'm at your place, you got to at least take a sip or two of it. Holy cow. Does this take the paint off?
I don't know if you're invited anymore. If that's what you're going to bring. I'll have to give it a shot, though, just to enjoy the experience with you.
Well, it's you got to hold on. Maybe it was just the first time. Hold on. It doesn't come in well.
Maybe towards the end of the glass, you won't even know.
It definitely has a flavor that it's distinctive, and you kind of know what you're drinking. So, I don't know how much of that I'll get through tonight. I do have a backup beer, just in case. But again, Justin, thanks for sending that, as well as those cigars. We appreciate it. And Mike, we got to get together, man.
I know.
We got to get together. You got to stop. Like, your family all of a sudden has been. Who do I need to call?
My 2 boys.
Well, that's not very fun.
Yeah, life's getting crazy.
That's not very fun. Yost, do you have any? You have any kids yet? Have you gotten that far?
No, but I do have a dog.
Oh, all right. Well, that's just as much maintenance. Just to be honest, it is. Yeah.
I have no idea if it is as much, but it's a fair bit of work. Yes.
It's a yeah. And
do you have to walk your kids 3 times a day, Mike?
Well, you got to take them. You got to play with them, right?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I do have to potty them probably more than that. They're in potty training right now, so
okay.
It feels like I'm in puppy stage of a dog where you're house training them.
Yeah, but with a dog that only takes like a couple of weeks.
I know. Yeah, not the same with kids. Yeah. When they're babies, you go through the chewing stage too. Like, don't chew on that. So I mean, they're very similar to dogs.
Yeah, fair enough.
They kind of are. Mike, Joe, put in the chat room. Have you picked up any of the Shiner Holiday Cheer?
I have not. I didn't know it's out yet.
It is. He put a picture in our Discord group. So if he spotted it. The Oktoberfest are running their way out, and the Christmas beers should be making their way in. So you'll have to. It's a good one.
It's a good one.
It is a good one indeed. All right. Well, let's so we can get Yost to bed at a decent hour. Let me kick this thing. let me kick this thing off here 1 second. Oh, by the way, Tony Rayner talked about the meetup. I'll talk about Tony. I have meetup dates. I'll announce them in the show. So hang tight. We're going to do it at the very beginning. I've got those for you. So I know you guys have said all week, I promised a meetup. So I scheduled one and it's coming up. So hang tight. All right. Let's see. I think we're all set. Spreaker looks good. Those look good. All right. Let me do the intro and then we'll get started. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 420, recorded on October 24th, 2019. Here at Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in a beautiful Bellevue, Nebraska. Mike, getting a little chilly. Is it kind of nice to a little frost on the ground?
I enjoy it. We're going to the Husker game this weekend, and I kind of like that perfect, wear a coat, and it kind of gets a little cold. That's my perfect Husker kind of game day. I enjoy it.
It's kind of nice. Not like maybe fall in Germany. Yost is joining us from Nextcloud. Yost, what do you think of? I lived in Germany. It gets a little chilly. Do you like fall in Germany? Is it pretty beautiful?
Well, it does look good. Like, we have a nice view from our apartment looking out over, lots of trees, and it's all getting yellow. And I like the view, but when you then have to go outside and it's slippery of the leaves and cold and wet, and the dog wants to go back inside, and so do I.
That's right. Berlin. I can't imagine a beautiful or more beautiful time than fall, German beer, Berlin. Christmas is coming. It's got to be great, right?
Actually, I would say Berlin is more of a summer and spring city.
Okay.
It's what you say. I think that's more Munich, southern Germany. It's a better time, I think, for fall.
You're originally from the Netherlands. Is Christmas pretty special in the Netherlands? Is that a good time to be there? Winter time?
It is, but it's the Germans, of course, who came up with the idea of a Christmas market and everything around it. So I would still stick with Germany.
All right.
And the Dutch are copying it too, but
yeah. Well, it's a magical time, and we've got great seasons here in Nebraska. Of course, we post a show with world-class show notes, and there'll be a few of them out there. Here at the very end of the show, we're going to do a quick product review, and so all the show notes will be available at theaverageguy.tv/HGG420 will get you there as well. Don't forget, you can join us live every week on our mobile app, homegadgetgeeks.com. We'll get you there, Android, iPhone. It's all available for you. It's free. Just download it. We want to thank our Patreon subscribers who helped me pay for that, and Spreaker, who does just a bang-up job of putting that mobile app together, and it's super easy. Don't forget, you can join us in the 2 groups, Facebook at theaverageguy.tv/Facebook, on Discord, theaverageguy.tv/Discord. We don't make that too difficult to find, and so we want to have you join us as well. Well, you've heard from them already. And Yost is joining us from Nextcloud. Yost, I can't pronounce your last name, so you're going to have to do that for me. But welcome to Home Gadget Geeks.
Hey guys, I'm really happy to be here, and it is Port Fleet, and please don't bother with it. It's okay.
Well, we appreciate the pass. I do appreciate that. You told me right up in the pre-show when we were doing that, that you're like, you should probably not try and pronounce it. So I appreciate you doing that. As we get started, give us a little bit of your role and position at Nextcloud, how long you've been there, some of those kinds of things, just so we can get to know you a little bit.
Well, I was there at the beginning, so June 2016. I'm one of the co-founders and head of marketing today because, I was the one who was willing to write blog posts when we started the company. And yeah, that's essentially what I still do. I have a team now, of course, of people who help me, write blogs and everything else that falls under marketing.
The Nextcloud team has grown quite a bit. I was on the website today getting your information, and I just kept going through some kind of pages and pages and pages of folks. How many are there now, and are you guys kind of in a growth mode?
Yeah, I think it's about 40-ish. Actually, this year we didn't grow our team that much. We have a bunch of positions open, trying to hire, especially sales, also marketing person, actually, hopefully interviewing next week. But sales is hard. Engineers is much easier simply because we generally hire people from the community, people who contribute. It's easy to hire people like that because you already know them. You've seen their faces at meetups that we organize a lot. And because everybody works from home essentially in our company, it's very easy for new people to join. It's an extension of the volunteer work they do. Obviously, things change a bit. When you get a paycheck, somebody can tell you what to do. So you do have to provide support for our customers, but often the things that people worked on that they did as a volunteer get extended into their employment. And that's, of course, a model that makes it easy for us to get new people on board. And it makes it, it creates a nice community feel in the company as well.
Nextcloud kind of comes from, and I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, kind of lives and comes out of an open source community, right? That's
very much so.
Right. That's a premise. That's an idea that's held very dear, very close to it. Today, a lot of times when we do our podcast, we kind of get the history of things and then we work our way up to today. I actually kind of want to start with today. Tell me a little bit, like, what's your pitch for Nextcloud today, both when we think of enterprise and when we think of, and we're gonna use kind of Mike as an example to be for the average consumer. So let's start with enterprise. When you're talking about your very best pitch for some of your spiel on why Nextcloud, why would I want to use you guys for my storage?
So I guess the strongest pitch is as a company, you want to stay in control of your data. It can be floating around all around in the cloud. And honestly, one of our favorite customers is one of these people who say, look, we have a lot of data, people are working on it, but they're sending it around by email, or they have to work on a Windows network drive, which means it's not available when they're home or on their mobile phone. Yeah, we want the benefits of all these tools like Dropbox and Google Drive and you name it, the benefits of working together with people in the cloud. But we don't want to go to the cloud because we don't want to lose control over our data, hand it over to another company. I know contracts and all that stuff, but still you lose quite a degree of control. You have a degree of vendor lock-in that can be pretty severe with some vendors. We want to stay in control. Well, that's essentially the premise of Nextcloud. This is what we offer. We give you all the benefits of online collaboration as a team, mobile clients, sync clients, the whole thing in a very easy to use interface that's definitely like consumer class, which is also something that's actually pretty rare in the industry because, well, we all know how tools like SharePoint can be less than optimal for normal human beings to work with. I'm being nice. I'm in a good mood.
No, you are. It was very diplomatic.
I know. I thought so.
Everybody uses it. Nobody likes it. That's the interesting thing about it.
I didn't want to say that, but thank you.
We will. Yeah.
Fair enough. So for us, it's really important to be easy to use. Yeah. I mean, our customers, they say, look, sometimes they have, for example, a document management system. Now, is Nextcloud a document management system? It can do a lot of the pieces. You have workflow tools, and yes, we have tags and search and this stuff. It's not primary what we do. However, we have quite some customers who have a document management system, and then it turns out that only the people in finance are willing to use it because, they can make it do their workflow. Everybody else is like, yeah, this is too much work. This is not easy to use. It doesn't do exactly what I want. And then they introduce Nextcloud, and then most people go to Nextcloud, and maybe someday the finance department too. And so for a company, it is about productivity, ease of use, but staying in control over your data. That's the gist of it.
You're in Berlin, and we know, Germany was a big driver behind GDPR and has been on the forefront of privacy. Does that bleed through? Is that why Nextcloud is what it is? And does that idea of privacy and it's your own stuff? And does that bleed through? Talk about how that influences.
Well, now you go to history, because this is what Nextcloud was initially started with. I mean, under an older name, etc. We can go back as far as you like in that regard. But the key was to give people, individuals, control over their data, privacy. Yeah, now company has no privacy. I mean, that's a concept for human beings, not for corporations, which I still believe aren't humans, at least not in Europe. And so the idea was to give private people a way to control their data, to protect their data, and keep it from being, exploited left and right. We all know, I guess, these days with all the leaks and all the bad news that's coming out these days, that even the biggest companies just fail to protect data of people. And even those who don't fail to protect it, they fail to handle it responsibly. I think the biggest, I don't know, I think one of the nastiest examples still is the action that Facebook did when, they asked for your phone number for two-factor authentication and then used it to get, advertisement to you as well as to your family and friends and everybody else. I mean, that kind of stuff is just irresponsible, honestly. Gives the whole tech industry a bad name. And there's plenty Facebook does right, I suppose, but this kind of stuff is just nasty. And for individuals, that's not how the internet was supposed to be, right? We were all supposed to be in control over our own data, and I know you guys are very much about home servers and staying in control over your data. So I think a lot of your listeners must kind of feel the pain when I say the internet isn't what it used to be. It's all getting centralized. It all depends on 4, 5, 6 big tech companies that host and control 70-80% of the traffic these days. And, when Tim started this idea, it was about being able to serve your own page. Now, I get that not everybody can run their own server. Yeah, but there's a middle ground between the incredible degree of centralization that we have today on an infrastructure that was designed to be decentralized and everybody running their own website. Again, I know that's not realistic, but even just having your data at a local provider in the city, Berlin is big enough to actually have a Berlin provider that targets Berliners. And that's cool, I think. And that means you can go there, you can talk to the people, look them in the eye, decide if you trust them or not, drink a beer with them if you want, if you don't trust it yet. Figure out what kind of people have access to your data, because it's just a reality that when somebody stores your data, they have access to it. I can't feed the people who claim to offer services that are end-to-end encrypted, but accessed through a browser, which usually really annoys the hell out of me, because when somebody sends code to your browser to be executed and to locally encrypt something, obviously that code could also just accidentally send that encryption key maybe to another server, because maybe even if they're not evil, there might just be a court order that forces them to do that. So the idea of being able to encrypt stuff in your browser, it's just kind of nonsense. I mean, sure, it's a little harder to get at, but it doesn't fundamentally change the fact that you need to trust the people who host your data. And that's a lot easier to do with people you can go to, talk to, sit down with, visit, than with people that are part of some huge corporation that regularly gets in the news for all kinds of stupid shit that they did. And that is under pressure of shareholders to make more money every couple of months. I mean, Google just added pricing to Gmail. Why did they do that? Were they about to go bankrupt and that they need to squeeze? Not exactly. They just have to show growth every year. There's this pressure on every public company. And that means there's a huge incentive for them at some point to do something that you might not like. And well, there you go, control.
Yeah, and do you feel like GDPR, and there's some new regulations coming in California that will probably be followed across the United States, right? Do you think that is going to go far enough, or do you think we're going to need to even go even farther to get kind of back to an idea where there is more control over it?
That's a good question. In Europe right now, the term digital sovereignty is really hot. And I have already seen communication purportedly coming from industry advocacy organizations, but my feeling was rather a mouthpiece of Microsoft. And the way they presented the subject of digital sovereignty and what it is about, of course, is Europe and a lot of countries in Europe and people in Europe being worried that all their data goes to the US. Yeah. But of course, even in the US, you can say, are we in control of our data, or are a couple of companies in Silicon Valley in control of our data? So even there, I think it is a relevant term. And the way this was presented, I thought was rather clever in an evil way. I'm a PR guy. I do PR. I can respect it when people do something really evil, but it's still clever. And this, I think, was an example of that. And the way they presented this, they said, look, you can have kind of some kind of digital slavery. You're not in control. You have your data and it's completely locked in at a vendor and you have no choice. That's, of course, bad. Fair enough. Big red mark next to it. Then you have digital sovereignty. You are in control. You choose where to put your data. But of course, you pick the best choice. That would be Microsoft. And then 3 would be digital autocracy. You are so adamant about being in control that you blindly pick the choice that is not the best, of course, but that gives you 100% control. And of course, that also got a red mark. And I thought that was kind of clever because, well, first of all, it's obviously a false dichotomy, right? I don't believe that it is by definition so that, the solutions of the big companies are better than the small companies. Otherwise, there would never be new companies. We've all seen history play out over the years. And, well, I think SharePoint just came up. Let me just leave it at that when it comes to quality of the solution. I mean, what keeps these companies in charge is market power and, well, the fact that they can pull open a can of salespeople for a single potential customer of us that's bigger than our entire company 5 times over. That's what keeps companies buying these solutions. And, well, that's sometimes a bit frustrating. I do think that rules, laws like the GDPR help in this regard. They create awareness. At the same time, of course, the big companies are very much aware that there are risks and they will lobby the heck out of it. I think Facebook is now very worried about one of the potential Democrat candidates for presidency. And, well, they might not go as far as to influence the advertisements that get shown on their platform. That would be particularly nasty. And they could. And I think we all know that they could completely sway the elections if they just wanted to, which I think in itself is already scary. But they will certainly lobby, which is what every company, of course, can do and does do as much in Europe and any other country in the world. And, well, I think it's a bit of a problem that much power is concentrated. And I don't really think the GDPR and these other privacy laws really solve that problem, because for that you would need data portability. You would also need, I guess, more incentives for people to pick an alternative. And there is, I mean, I still use Gmail. Let me be honest and upfront here. Yeah. Why? Honestly, I'm just lazy.
It's convenient, right?
Exactly. And it's not bad, right? Yeah. It's a pretty decent solution. And I'm a, open source, free software, privacy, I could say activist, but let's just say I promote that stuff.
Yeah.
And yet I haven't moved away from Gmail.
Right.
Okay, so the problem isn't necessarily as much law as it also is, I think, awareness and importance given to this. And I think the companies that do offer alternatives can do a better job too. That includes us, right? We try to make it as easy as humanly possible to sign up to Nextcloud. And I can talk a little bit about that later, what we've done in that area. I think that is also a big part of the solution for this. It needs to be easy.
Yeah, no, and so as we make a shift a little bit, most of our audience, we have a lot of sysadmins, so we've got a lot of folks who can sympathize or know what you're talking about, and are managing those either on-prem or off-prem servers, right? So that's an enterprise discussion, but we all control our own data, and so for the rest of the time, we're really going to spend a bunch of time kind of talking about in our space, the space we control, our home server space, however we decide to do that. In this community, we've got a lot of guys and gals who are still running from a terabyte to 100 terabytes and maybe more storage at home. Mike, talk a little bit about, because let's kind of set the stage for where you're at, and Jos, we will spend a little time. You can kind of listen and hear where he's at. We can talk a little bit about then the average kind of consumer in our space or one of our listeners. So Mike, why don't you kick it off? Talk a little bit about how you're using it and what you got to set up on.
Yeah. So, well, initially for me, when I wanted to switch over, the big, pain points for me was our whole family is an Apple family, right? So we're on iPhones. And so we were just naturally using iCloud for a lot of our contacts, our calendars, and things like that. And then for documents, we were kind of across the board. Hannah was actually using a little bit of iCloud just because it would just work for her. She didn't really come from anything. I had been using Dropbox previously for kind of a file synchronization, having it everywhere option. So I kind of wanted to unify everything. And then for photos, we were both using iPhoto the photo library through iCloud to sync everything. And I was like, okay, we can unify this. And I kind of became the same thing, a data control, privacy kind of nut. And so, I switched to Bitwarden as my password manager because I can self-host it. And, the odds of them getting to my last pass were slim, but it's just that I want to host it, right? I want it on myself. I trust myself. Jos was talking about, I want to be able to talk to the guy who controls it. Well, I talk to myself all the time, so it's great. I can sit here and chat with myself all day, and I trust myself maybe more than I should. So those were kind of some of the factors: data control, unifying our whole family on something. And then my wife also needed something that she could use. So she's becoming a professor. So she's teaching a few classes, but she's still working her full-time job at the hospital. So she needed a way that she could do stuff at home and then go to work and still access it. And so I was like, okay, we can figure this out. And Nextcloud had been something our community had been talking about for a long time. It actually started with, OwnCloud way back a long time ago when I first started with you, Jim, like 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Then it switched over to Nextcloud, and we had this conversation. I'm like, okay, I got to look into this. So my setup is I have an Unraid server in my home. It's got, I think it's got like 28 terabytes in it, used for a lot of different things.
Just 28? That's all you got?
That doesn't hold up now in our community, Jim. I'm not in the hundreds yet. So I got to do some work to get that storage up. But so I have Unraid, and Unraid, if you don't know, everything pretty much runs through Docker. And so you're using Docker for pretty much everything on there. So that is how I'm running Bitwarden, Plex, and Let's Encrypt as my reverse proxy. And then I use Nextcloud, obviously. And so I was like, okay, this is going to be great. So I found a great tutorial. If you guys are on Unraid and you want to put Nextcloud on it, Space Invader did a great tutorial on YouTube. So if you go look him up, I think it's Space Invader 1, his tutorial, it is just flawless. You can get, and he covers getting Nextcloud installed on Unraid and also getting it set up with your reverse proxy. So that guy is the go-to source. Someone in our community, I think, actually sent his video to me, and that's how I found it. He does a lot of Unraid videos, but that one I've actually gone and watched about 10 different times. If I need to make a change to something or I can't remember how to set it up, I just go back and watch it. So I'm on Unraid, running it in Docker. It really couldn't have been easier to set up. There's a few things that you have to do. The video that he did walks you through it, just a few minor adjustments to some files, things like that. But once you actually have it up and running, it's pretty simple. So once you get it going for the first time, I was really impressed with for the fact of getting users set up. So, you type in, I typed in my wife's name, her email address, hit go, it sent her an email, she signed in, she set it all up. and you just kind of are off to the races. And at first we started out with just the document, I guess, storage syncing aspect of it. And I replaced it. I ran both for a while. So for me, I pulled everything over from Dropbox, copied it there, and I ran both just to, kind of test it out, test the waters for about 2 months. And I realized I liked it a lot better. The web interface, super easy to use, the sharing aspects of it. And I loved that, then Dropbox, they just, right about the same time, maybe a few months after, they announced this whole 3-device limit for their free plan. And I had Dropbox installed everywhere.
Dropbox, yeah.
Yeah, right. I'm sure you guys got a lot of business from that.
That's
right?
a nice incentive for people to finally make that step. Yeah, I talked
100%. Because I was using the free plan from them, and could I have paid, I think like $10 a month? Yes, but also then you're still limited on storage. And I have a 28 terabyte server sitting over here. I could be essentially unlimited when it comes to documents and photos. And so I'm like, okay, this just makes sense. I'm just going to switch it over. So we switch completely over. Nextcloud offers I guess I'll call it the sync application for the average guy. You install the application on Mac, on Windows, I think on Linux. I don't run any Linux boxes around here, but you can run it pretty much everywhere. So I have it on all my Macs. I have it on my iPhone. We have it on our iPad. My wife has it on everything she has. And that essentially is just like if you've ever used Dropbox, same sort of thing. The files stay in sync. They're just everywhere you need them to be. You can selectively set which ones you want to sync and which ones you just want to live on the server, which is great for me because I love to use Nextcloud for all of my massive video files when I do any sort of YouTube videos and things like that. But I don't necessarily need those to sync across to all my computers and take up storage on the local hard drive. So they're very good about the settings of being selective of what you want to sync across. So we started with that. We started with just the files, and it worked great. My wife's favorite feature is that she's at home, she's on the laptop, she's editing, and she saves something. She saves a presentation. Then we're on the drive down to the family farm, and she needs to access something. Her boss calls her. She whips out her iPhone. She has it. She emails it. Then she's at work, and she pulls up the web browser. And she can get to our server. It's not blocked by her IT department. Don't know why. They don't like file sharing sites, but for some reason, our home IP doesn't get blocked. And so she's able to access it there, get her school documents that she prepared. So for her, I think she's actually in our house probably the power user of Nextcloud, mainly because at my work, I'm tied in with their systems, right? And so I use a lot of Microsoft. Have to, I've got the word in on Nextcloud though. I do. I'm trying to talk the IT department into it. But so she is just a power user. She loves that feature. So then step 2 for us was really figuring out. We had been trying to figure out a good solution for syncing and backing up locally all of our photos. My whole point was that okay, iCloud is great, but what happens if we were to die tomorrow? We get in a crash tomorrow, and they don't know our passwords to iCloud. I have, I could put passwords in there and they could probably figure it all out, but I have kind of an SOS manual that I keep here that people would know about, and it's all here and it's local and it's secured and we've got the key and we know about it. And so I was like, okay, we need a place that we can store our photos, and the app on the iPhone for Nextcloud is fantastic for backing up your entire photo library. It just does it in the background, flawless. It's always updating. You never even have to open the app. It's just always doing it. And so we both of our phones set up to back up to the Nextcloud box for all of our photos. So that was step 2, and it works great. And then the great part about that too is that it's really easy to, from any browser, access all of your photos. Right before, you might have to go to iCloud.com, sign in to, and then maybe an iCloud on the browser is not a fun experience, especially I don't even know if you can access all your photos in the browser, but it's not fun if you can. But with Nextcloud, it's super simple to it's the same web interface and you can see all your photos. So when we're away from home and we don't have our phones and she's at work and she needs to email something, all your photos are right there. I find that actually Nextcloud sometimes syncs it faster than I can even get in there and share it and okay, how do I get this photo over to my computer? Do I email it to myself? Trying to figure out how to get it on my computer. Most of the time it's already synced by the time I go in and do that, which is great. So then step 3 for us was I had to really decide. We had an experience where we were trying to get our contacts and our calendar on a non-Apple device, and it was extremely hard and unwieldy. And we found out that we were really locking ourselves into the Apple ecosystem. And although Apple has gotten a little bit better about being available on Windows and things like that, try getting your contacts on a different, on an Android or something like that, and it's messy. So I'm like, going forward, I'd love to future-proof ourselves and have a system that is not tied to an ecosystem. So I said, I'm going to get all of our. So one night I just sat down and it was super simple on the Mac because the Mac syncs with iCloud. So I had all the contacts there. I literally just exported them, pulled them into Nextcloud, and we were off and running. And then I just turned off iCloud contacts on our phones and switched over. Nextcloud uses CardDAV and CalDAV, so very standard protocols for synchronizing your contacts and calendars. And we were up and running with contacts, and then I ended up doing it with calendars as well. So our entire family calendar, we have one shared family calendar that lives on Nextcloud, and then we each have our own personal calendar that we can keep stuff on as well. And it integrates with the iPhone just as well as iCloud ever did. And if I ever need to move over, if I need to pull those from somewhere, if I'm remote, all my contacts calendar is accessible via the web in a great interface, and it's private. And I know where it is, and I host it, and no one's going to get to that data. One thing I do really like, and I'll throw this out there, you can actually do a security check. Nextcloud has a tool that you can go plug in your URL for your specific server, and it'll run through a check. And Yost, I'd love to know maybe a little bit as we get to talking here about what that check's for. But I'm proud to say I got an A+. I've got it's as good as I can get. It's up to date. All the security checks out. But it gives you kind of peace of mind that, okay, this is, if this is being used in a commercial setting, I think I'm pretty safe from a home user perspective that my data is secure on my server. So that's how we use it. We have now replaced everything, so we no longer use Dropbox. iCloud for us is we back up our photos twice. We do use iCloud Photo Library, and that's really only because we do a lot of iMovie projects, and it pulls in pretty nicely. So we use it, but we also use Nextcloud, so we have it personally as well. And but as far as contacts, calendars, and all of our files, we are going through Nextcloud, and it has been. We talk about Jim and Yost. We have this term. It's called the wife approval factor. As a tech guy, sometimes you do something in the home. I got this fancy new Wi-Fi, or I got this fancy new TV, and it drives them nuts. But we think it's cool, but the usability of it isn't. And Nextcloud is the complete opposite of those complicated things. It was 100% wife approval factor from the beginning, and I think she liked the fact it was actually all unified into one system. I know where to go, one place for my contacts, my calendars, my files, my photos. Everything is right here, and it's fast. On our local network, it is extremely fast. Obviously, when you're at home, that stuff is just, and you don't have to worry about bandwidth either. If I'm at home and I'm creating video files and I'm throwing it over there, I'm not having to wait for a 500 gig or a file to upload to the cloud. It's just there, and it's all local, which is another great feature. So that's my kind of home use case, and I would suggest if you do have Unraid, to just at least give it a shot, because it's super simple to install, and you can kind of play around with it, see if you like it like I did, run it alongside your current system, because I think you'll really be surprised at how well it works.
Well, that was a great commercial. The show is over.
Yeah. No. I'm a fanboy. I was so excited when we said that Yost, we got Nextcloud coming on. I was super pumped because I have just been such a fan of this product, and it has never failed me once. The only time it failed me is because I failed myself, and I crashed my cache drive on my server, and all of my apps died. That was nothing. It was not Nextcloud. It was me. All of my Dockers were blown away, and so that was not fun. I had to go through an old backup. So it's never failed me. It just works. It just straight up works.
Mike, you're on Unraid, and we do have a lot of Windows. Yost, I told you we come out of the Windows kind of community. Ken is asking that question: when will it support or run on Windows? Lots of Windows servers here in the community. Some thoughts on that?
Yeah, it did in the old days, before Nextcloud, and it was a bit of a pain to keep running because we do a fair bit of file system stuff, and that's completely caused all kinds of issues. Yeah? I mean, the most simple issue you can probably think of is that on Linux and Mac, a file name in capitals is very different from the same file name lowercase. Windows won't see the difference. Therefore, boom, if your server doesn't see is unable to do that. So we had to essentially maintain a separate file system layer for Windows as we had for Linux. And that caused, a lot of work and also a lot of bugs. And that's at some point we said, look, this isn't worth it. Linux is, at least in my opinion, but then again, I'm a long-time Linux guy, a far better platform for a server anyhow. So, yeah, I think running it in a VM will do fine.
So would that be your recommendation for this community? If
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
most
yeah.
familiar with Windows, of running a Linux box inside a VM to do it
Yeah,
that way?
Docker these days is available. I don't know exactly what it would do. I mean, the thing is, of course, as storage, you can definitely use Windows system. Yeah, I mean, somehow Windows Network Drive as storage in Nextcloud is not a problem, and even as primary storage. A lot of our customers do that. They just have their user directory and their Windows Network Drive just connected to Nextcloud, and every user logs in and gets their home directory and all that stuff. But as the application server itself, yeah, it's not supported at the moment, so that's pretty simple.
But this runs on a Raspberry Pi, right? I mean, you can literally just grab a Pi and run it. This
Yes.
thing does not need a lot of horsepower.
No.
I mean, do people so for example, for me, my Unraid server, it's an old, like maybe third or fourth gen i5. Would I notice a big slowdown if I went to a Pi, or really for what it's doing, I don't notice it using really any CPU on my box?
A few things each CPU. For example, the generation of thumbnails, that kind of stuff will eat some CPU. And there are a couple of other tasks that will keep it busy a bit. And it depends, of course, how intensively you use it. When you're pumping over files, I mean, that's, of course, not so intensive. When you would use the server-side encryption, I generally don't really recommend that. You can get into that if you like, but that eats quite some CPU power. Transferring files sometimes, depending on the settings you have in your server, it can eat CPU power, because what it would do when you have really big files and you use like the web interface, it would upload in chunks, and then at the end of the process it has to assemble the chunks, but that's more disk I/O even. If you run Collabora Online or only Office, the online Office solutions, they will eat CPU, especially in the case of Collabora Online, because that runs everything on your server.
Yep, and I use that as well. And on Unraid, the way Docker works, that's a separate Docker, and then it integrates down into Nextcloud, and it still works fantastic.
It works, yeah. I mean, you mentioned a X generation i5, so I run my Nextcloud on an i5 750. I think that's the first generation i something in general. I've downclocked it. It's a quad core and it runs normally at, I don't know, 2.5 gigahertz or something. I've downclocked it to a gigahertz. I have no performance issues. And I mean, a modern Raspberry Pi, the new one, which comes with a quad core A72, I think, which runs on like 1.5 gigahertz, I think. I mean, that probably kicks the ass in terms of pure CPU horsepower of my server. Yeah. So, and I mean, I run Collabora Online. I run Nextcloud Talk on it. Yeah, calendar, contacts, mail, we use all of it. And it's fine. So, yeah, you don't need a lot of CPU. You do need enough memory, though. That's also why I think the older Raspberry Pis, if you still got a Raspberry Pi 3 or 3B lying around, the bottleneck is going to be memory. Because for Nextcloud to be smooth, you need to have the mem caching set up. Yeah, Redis especially. And well, that kind of goes down the drain if you don't have enough memory. Of course, it doesn't work, and that actually is a bit of a performance hit, because then without the caching, of course, it has to compute everything, and suddenly your CPU use goes up, and you get latency and everything else.
So two things you mentioned. Number one, is there any reason I shouldn't be using Nextcloud in Docker on Unraid? Is Docker a decent way to use Nextcloud? Any negatives?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Because I have the option of spinning up a VM on Unraid instead and doing a Linux VM compared to Docker, but I've never experienced any problems with Docker.
I don't think it makes a difference.
Okay.
I don't think it makes much of a difference. I mean, personally, look, I'm an OpenSUSE guy. I just run pure OpenSUSE on it, and then I've just installed the tarball and I manage that myself happily. I like to SSH in and just screw around a bit sometimes. But I mean, both the VM and the Docker image, I think, are perfectly fine. And there's also the Snap, which is also supremely easy to use, because that one you really never have to look at, because it updates by itself. It's completely, like, I think the Snap is the most zero maintenance you can get. It's also the one that's usually most, I don't want to say outdated, but running behind a bit. In the pre-show, you mentioned you were on an Nextcloud 16. I think the Snap is still on 15. or recently moved to 16. So the snap is very conservative, which is mostly because the people running it, building it, maintaining it, they just really want to make 180,000% sure that it won't ever break, because it's really designed to be zero maintenance. Therefore, it can't break, and they have to make sure that everything never ever will require you to do anything, and that's of course a bit of work to keep that. I appreciate that they're so careful with that, but I personally want to run release candidates. I always upgrade my private server by the time, sometimes the beta, sometimes release candidates. My colleagues always tell me to back up, which I don't. I've never had any issues, so hey.
So, and then, okay, so we talked about the file side. We talked about contacts, calendar. There were two other things you mentioned that you run that I'm kind of interested in. The talk feature and then mail. Maybe go into those two and talk about what kind of options those give you.
Yeah, so talk is our audio video chat integration. It's a WebRTC based audio video calls you can have. Runs completely on your own server, so you have the data and the metadata, which is actually nice. Because WebRTC is always end-to-end encrypted, you have that too thrown in for free in the mix. And it runs in a browser, so with Nextcloud you can send somebody a public link to a talk room, and they can join the call, and they just need to have a webcam or not, just a microphone at least. And there's no account, nothing needed. So that's quite nice. And it's just a one-click install. Like there's no extra Docker images or anything like that. It's just completely in PHP. It's actually, historical fact, we rewrote it from Go to PHP so that you can install it with one click rather than having to run a Docker container. It has scalability limits because, well, it's peer-to-peer, which means if you have a call with 5 people, you're sending and receiving 5 streams. Obviously, that's not going to work with 50. At that point, we as a company, we resell a solution that is a combination of parts from a partner and parts that we build ourselves in Go, because it's not like we have an issue with Go. It's a good language. It's just, every tool has its place. But for home users, the chat, you have mobile chat apps. It's really awesome. You can get a workflow where certainly with Nextcloud Text, new in 17, you should upgrade. You have like this text editor. It's a collaborative text editor. It's Markdown based, so it's really simple. But when you look at it, it just has bold, and you can insert an image and make a list and all that stuff. You do a star, an asterisk, or the star symbol, a space.
How does that compare to Collabora? Pretty similar. Is it replacing Collabora?
No. It's just Markdown. Yeah, they're essentially just text files. So if you make notes from a meeting, it's way better because you don't have the overhead of a complete Office suite, which lets you build tables and do all fancy stuff. It's just super thin and light and has like 8 buttons on top and not like a toolbar and menus. And then the sidebar, just like with Collabora, in the sidebar you have the chat, and you can have a call even in the sidebar. So you're having a call with someone, and this is actually what I now do. Like I have calls with partners sometimes about marketing, and what I do is I create a text file. I put in a couple of bullet points for the agenda points, and I just share the file with them. And then I tell them, we set a call around 4:00, and I tell them, hey, just ping me in the chat. Yeah, you can mention me as a guest. And they mention me, and I get ping on my phone. It's like, oh, they're in, and I can either pick up the call in my phone, I'll start the call, or which is what I usually do, just get on my desktop and just join there and talk to them. And then, you have the chat or the call or both.
And so guests can use that too. It doesn't need to be a user that's on your server. Anyone.
No. Including the mentioning, which is actually really neat.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's getting better and better integrated. So, for example, when you're in files, you have the share button, and you can click it, and you type the name of a chat room, hit enter, and you just share it directly in the chat room. So you don't just share to people; you can share to a chat now, which is very neat. And of course, within the chat, you can click a plus button and then share a file from your Nextcloud into the chat as well. What we're working on, of course, is that you'll be able to turn like this chat room immediately into a collaborative editing session. Ooh. Yeah. But spoiler alert, that's not done yet. That's obviously something we want, right? This is really, really nicely integrated. What was the other thing?
Mail.
Mail. Yes. Well, it's a mail client. Enough said. So it doesn't host your mail. Yeah, you have to use, I don't know, Dovecot or something as an IMAP server and connect it. But it's a mail client, a mail web client, which is reasonably responsive. So it'll work in your mobile browser as well if you don't have an app for that. I personally, for me, it's just this backup when you're somewhere and you need to access your mail and you don't have like an app or an application around, and it works fine for that. I mean, I personally am not a person who lives in the browser other than browsing pages, I suppose, but I don't work usually in the browser. Although I must say, actually, Nextcloud Text is changing that. I'm very often now making notes in the browser rather than in the text file. But I am not yet ready to move to email in a browser. Actually, not by long shots. I love my desktop client, and you can take it from my cold dead hands.
It does look like, just as we're talking, we're talking about using Docker. It does look like you can now use Docker on a Windows desktop to be able to do that. There's been some changes in Windows. I think the Linux subsystem has been a part of that. But but I would think that would be pretty heavy for most. Like, if you were going to do something like this, might as well, Mike, in our case, might as well go to Unraid first because it's so much lighter. I think Docker management's a little bit easier there. And then
go to a Pi, actually might be the easiest. If you're just like, I don't know, maybe we ask Yoast, what's like for a home user, what's the easiest intro to Nextcloud? Easiest way to kind of get in? Is it a Raspberry Pi?
Well, so if you want to host yourself,
yeah,
it's actually a good question because I can very well imagine that actually if you're a Windows system administrator, that getting a Docker image running on your system might actually be the easiest way. If you're a Linux person, snap install Nextcloud, it doesn't really get any easier. So if you have no server, then I do imagine a Raspberry Pi is a pretty neat way because the only things you need to do is you need to get a Pi and connect it to a hard drive and power and everything. Download one of the Nextcloud Pi. So there's a Nextcloud Pi project which builds essentially images that you put on an SD card, plug in your Pi, and you're up and running. Right? It'll auto-configure itself, and of course then you need to connect to it and set up a user account and etc. But it's essentially pretty much self-managed from what I remember from playing with it. So that is a pretty neat way of doing it. But yeah, it depends, right? I mean, running a server is the work. It's not Nextcloud. That's a hard part of running a server. It's the SSL connection and opening the ports in your firewall and getting a domain name. That's going to be the hard part in any case, whether you go for a Pi or use your Windows system or your Linux system. The hard part isn't going to be Nextcloud. It's just a sad truth. We can only make it so easy. Yeah.
True.
Couple comments coming in on chat, I think. Justin had said, yeah, you can, but limited use cases. Still not 100% caught up on BSD Linux.
So that's about the Docker on Windows image. Yeah. I mean, the big question is there anyone here who has tried Docker on Windows with Nextcloud? Yeah, because, I mean, limited use case. The question is, does it cover everything Nextcloud needs from Docker? If it does, well, it doesn't matter. It can't do something else. If it can do Nextcloud, that's what you're looking for. Yeah. I just don't know. I really don't. Honestly, it's an interesting question. I'd love to hear it. If somebody here knows, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, send me, if you're doing that, send me, or you want to try it, send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv, and we'd love to kind of interact with you on that. Justin also says running Docker on Synology, and that would work, right? Well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a great way because a lot of people have those, kind of home style NAS devices. And I think Docker is going to be, if it's not already, on QNAP as well and some of the other kind of home style NASs. But yeah, Docker on Synology would be good. That's where all your storage is.
I wish Drobo supported it. I've got this Drobo network drive, and they've made a lot of headway on those, since the change in ownership over there at Drobo. Their apps have gotten infinitely better, but I still haven't seen Docker on Drobo yet. So that would and those CPUs aren't great. They're okay. They're not great. So that may not be great. Synology definitely is one of those perfect boxes where it's a great combination of drives and memory and processor. Like they just do. They build really good box. Joe asks in the chat room, any chance of supporting something like Exchange or Open Exchange on the email client?
I'm guessing that Open Exchange supports IMAP, and honestly, Exchange also supports IMAP-ish, from what I understand. I don't know how compatible it is. Yeah, I found that an interesting point. I didn't know about that, and honestly, I mean, my mail client connects to my Gmail account via IMAP, as far as I know, and I sure as dirty word have more than 10k messages in some folders. So I don't know. I don't know. It might be that you can work around that or not.
Yeah.
But then maybe at that point you need to set up a filter.
So I do think from an average guy standpoint, or at least from the average tech guys that are listening to this show, really what I'm hearing, it really, unless you're going to run your own Linux server, maybe Mike, in your case, Unraid, that's a pretty easy-ish setup with Docker. You've done it. It's doable. Synology is another one of those boxes that would kind of work to get that in QNAP. I think may do something along those lines as well. Then kind of let it rip. I'll be honest. I went out and looked at the website and looked through some of the documentation because I was going to install it before the show. And then I kind of dug into this and I was like, oh, this is a little more work than I thought. It's just not.
So you're not a Linux user, because then it would have been download the tarball, go into the folder where you extracted it, type php -s localhost :3000 and then go to localhost :3000 in your browser. And what do you know? Log in, please.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, right. Yeah. And you're right. I am not. And there are there's plenty of listeners who are like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. That is not, because I'm a Windows home server guy, and because was an Windows MVP for a lot of years. I'm pretty used to the GUI and the, configuring it that way and making it work. No commentary on Linux or any of those other kinds of things. That's just the system.
That's what you're used to. Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. Yeah.
No, but after this conversation, so a couple times I've started the Unraid process right away. I have 100 terabytes here. And I was like, I should start the Unraid process and use Docker, and Mike, just follow. I can always ping you for questions and, get something up and running, because I am a little bit sold after hearing kind of the way you use it, Mike. I was like, all right,
it's a pretty cool, and I think typical, although intensive use case. I think the average Nextcloud user doesn't have 28 terabyte of storage, let alone 100.
Right.
I haven't dared to mention the small number that I have. It's under 10.
Yeah. Well, no. Hey, no. Hold on, Mike. 1 second. No storage shame here. Hold on, just like no storage shame.
Fair enough. So I do actually have more than 10 terabytes in my computer, but I haven't set it up properly in terms of RAID. I'm using Btrfs, and I planned to use like this RAID 5.6 that Btrfs had, which is extremely flexible. Like you can just mix 1 terabyte and 3 terabyte and 6 terabyte drives and just throw it all in, and it'll make one storage out of there. And then you say, I want to be able to have 2 random drives crash on me. And then Btrfs will just figure out how much storage that means you then actually have available, which is like really awesome. But there is still some uncertainty about whether it might eat your data in weird cases. And I do like my private pictures, and I have until now been too lazy to do a proper backup. Therefore, I haven't really had the balls. But you can migrate from what I'm using now, which is RAID 1. You can migrate to RAID 6 like easily. So I'm actually going to do that, I don't know, at some point when I feel it's safe. Btrfs.
Butter. Okay.
So it's like a file system. It's like kind of the next gen file system for Linux, but it's been in development for a long time. And so I'm using SUSE Linux, or OpenSUSE, and they have this very nice habit where they essentially disable everything in Btrfs that they think is not safe. And because they do a lot of development work on it, I kind of trust their opinion on it. Therefore, as long as it's not enabled, I'm not going to use it. And when they enable it, I'm going to go all in. And I'm going to, So I have the drives in there.
Yeah.
I have a couple
You
of
have to.
drives, and just they're not enabled yet. It's
Well,
it's
and in all
frustrating.
fairness, we only, in our entire Nextcloud instance, I think we only have 500 gigs used, and that's including all of our photos and everything. I was just saying, I love the fact that I'm unlimited, essentially, was my use sense, because we're only using 500 now, and that's all of our photos, all of our documents. So that I'm never going to run out of space, and if I do, I buy a hard drive and I throw it in, right? And so that's
Exactly
my
right.
love.
That's the beauty of it. Yeah, it costs nothing. I mean, I took
Nothing.
my old desktop and slapped in a few more hard drives and put it, well, initially behind my couch and later in the storage room, and that's beautiful. Underclocked it a little bit, save some power and environment.
Yeah, and Jim,
Yeah.
I think it would be great for you, especially because your family is all on different ecosystems, right? You're not you're on Android, you're on Apple, you're on Windows.
Yeah.
Your kids are all over the country, but you are the data guy, right?
Yeah.
You know how to back up the stuff,
Yeah.
and you could keep them all centralized. You can share stuff amongst each other. It would be a great family ecosystem for you guys to live in.
I started down that path. By the way, just a quick update. The Bundaberg rum has eaten through the glass. Just spilled all over the place.
It's acid. It's actually acid.
That was, you have to listen to the live pre-show if you want to know what we're talking about there. But Mike, I started down that path, but the maintenance, like for individual kids and the responsibility to back up their stuff and to have it available 24/7 and to make sure, like, when they're having trouble, they call me. Like, I did that for a couple of years, even when they were in the house. And I kind of made the decision. I'm like, I don't know if I want to be the backup dad. I like, it's easier for, in some cases, because I messed it up a whole bunch of times. Like, and you're like, oh, hold on, it's down, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of just then started teaching them, like, come up with your own solution that you control, whatever that's going to be.
iCloud, Google Drive.
For some of them, right? Or their university provides it or whatever. And to be honest with you, some of them that like, my kids are millennials. They don't have as much data as you think they're gonna have. And many of them are using Facebook as their storage, right? All their pictures are on Facebook.
Yeah.
And so, you kind of think, like, how are you going to get those pictures back? And
They don't think of it.
No, they don't.
And there is a data export function that at least gives you your pictures back.
Right.
So
okay. So that being said, though, Mike, it's been easier. I have 5 kids, so like that's a lot of data, and it's been one of those kinds of things. I started down that path of being kind of the data dad. And then I was like, life's a lot better if I'm not managing an infrastructure 24/7. And anytime I want to make a change, like, hey, I'm going to have to reboot the server, it would always be when they were doing stuff. And then the fatal blow was one time when I lost some data because I wasn't careful and I did something stupid and I lost data. And I thought, okay, I don't know. I don't mind being responsible for my pictures and my stuff. I don't know if I want to be responsible for other people's stuff. So I just stopped kind of offering. And to be honest, they stopped kind of asking. And so we kind of left it at that. Now, that being said, I still have a lot of my own stuff and I'm super, I'm thinking, okay, like, all right, this weekend, what am I going to do? How am I going to install this? What kind of infrastructure do I want to put in to be able
that's
to?
literally what Raspberry Pis were invented for, right?
Yeah, I know. Right.
For those weekends.
I got an extra one, Jim. You can have the Raspberry Pi and
I've got 9 PCs in the house. Like I have enough equipment, I've got something I can put it on. It's just a matter of configuring it. It is a weekend of setup to get things going, getting them set up, getting it configured, punching through the firewall, those kinds of things to kind of, making
but those are fun weekends. So hey,
they are.
That's true.
No, they are. Yeah. So as we think of the future at Nextcloud and stuff, as you guys are looking forward, what would you tell for the folks that are listening? And we've already mentioned Mike's on 16, 17 is out. It looks like just came out pretty recently here. How would you get excited about the future at Nextcloud? What are you guys looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, I think Talk is a good example, and also the integration that I mentioned. We're building a collaboration platform, and there's a lot more in that area that we can do. So we have an app called Deck, which is essentially a Kanban board. Really beautiful for collaboration, planning tasks. You can assign people to cards, stuff like that. And I think this will continue to be the direction that we take, that there's more things that you can put in, tools to plan a wedding and plan a family holiday day, that you can assign people cards, like, hey, pay the bill, etc. There's already an app for like money planning. I mean, I think on one hand, we are going to keep working on this collaboration and doing stuff together stuff and communication and integrating it all deeper. At the same time, our ecosystem is really exploding. There are more than 200 apps for Nextcloud in our app store, and there are password managers. Here the S, multiple. And there's just a crazy number of tools from external storages. You have like storage with SIA, and you guys talked a little bit about that pre-show with this blockchain storage. And there's all kinds of fancy stuff there. Authentication methods, like there's two-factor authentications that come out of your nose. Like we have this really cool one that lets you authenticate a second factor with a notification on your phone. So, well, that's really nice. I mean, you might know that, of course, from Google, but like there are very few websites that offer something like that. Or you can get an email, or you can get an SMS, or you can get, and all that stuff is apps. And there are continually people are releasing new apps and new stuff, from really simple things like, I don't know, show more information about a download, to people who are building completely new tools and stuff. And that's going to continue, I'm pretty sure, right? So what is it going to be? God, I don't know. It really also depends a lot on what people are going to do and what they want to do. And it's, well, yeah, world is their oyster.
So we're big in the WordPress community, of course, because of podcasting, and WordPress go together like peanut butter and jelly in a lot of ways. When you talk about, Nextcloud lives kind of in an open source community, and you're talking about a lot of plugins and stuff that are kind of open source. How are you guys kind of checking what people are creating against it? So, the plugin community in WordPress is a nightmare. What's kind of partnerships do you guys have, or what are you doing to kind of make sure those plugin communities, those open communities that are building on top of what you're doing, are kind of staying in line, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, of course, we're a bit younger and a bit smaller still than WordPress. I mean, we'll overtake them, but it'll take a few more years.
Yeah, they only run a third of the web.
Yeah, so. Exactly, right. I mean, how hard can it be? Come on, there are 7 billion people on planet Earth. I mean, we have this Nextcloud global scale that, as the name suggests, we get there. In the meantime, so to get an app in the App Store, you have to upload your private key. You have to upload your private key and interact a little bit with us. Now, that's not a whole lot of interaction, but it's not that anyone can just make an account and upload something. And we keep a bit of an eye on it. We don't have anywhere near the resources to really monitor everything, but we do run a security bug bounty program where you can earn 10K. We put our money where our mouth is. We think we're very good at security. Prove us wrong, please. You'll get up to 10K for that. And this formally doesn't cover the apps, because that is completely impossible and insane. And we will be bankrupt, I think, very quickly, because how. Well, I mean, come on, there's a business model, yeah? You write an app, you put a big security bug in it, and then you let a friend of you report it via the bug bounty program. So this wouldn't work. But people do report bugs also in the apps, and a lot of people do go and check out the apps, kind of, I guess, triggered by the bug bounty program. So we get quite a bit actually in via there, and then we talk to the app authors, and when they don't take action, we do. Yeah. So there's not a whole lot that we do preemptively, also in part because we've put in quite a bit of effort to make our framework really secure and actually make it hard to write insecure apps, and you get warnings, and actually like a lot of stuff just gets blocked. Like when you upload an app to our app store, there's a static code checker that will just check if you don't use private APIs and other stuff, and it'll give warnings and block stuff, etc. So there's a fair bit of stuff in place. At the same time, we don't have the resources of Apple and Google. We don't review it that way. So some common sense and caution is certainly in place when you check out the apps.
Well, and the community itself would lend itself to more tech smart people, I would think, anyways. And so it's just not probably not the environment where you're just going to have people clicking and downloading these things.
No, of course,
using,
it's not as easy as it is to install an app on an iPhone. At the same time, of course, we want to lower the barrier, and we've been scarily successful, perhaps in some ways, with that. I mean, I estimate there are about 250 to 300,000 Nextcloud servers on the web, and those can't all be professional sysadmins. So, there are quite some people out there that run a Nextcloud that's run, that aren't super professional with it. And a lot of people use really a lot of apps. We actually heard at one point from somebody who claimed to have over 150 apps installed, which I think is that can barely be true. But he claimed that he was running it for friends and family, and he said they really used all of them. So, well, who am I to argue with that?
There
point?
You go.
No. I'll give my two favorite real quick. If you're just starting out, Collabora, we already talked about. It's pretty much it's like Google Docs, but in Nextcloud private. You can all do it. So Jim, if you had it installed, we could replace our Google Docs with that, and we could both be typing in there, same thing. And then Draw.io. You've probably everyone here who's probably done any sort of network, right? What's it called? Documentation, essentially, right? You're graphically laying out schematics of your network. Draw.io, you've probably used it. It's built in. When you install the app, you just create a new document, and Draw.io is one of them, and you can just start. So that's how I've now done the schematic of all my networks, and it has all the draw features and everything that you would need in there, and it works really, really well. So Draw.io and Collabora are my two, really the only two external apps that I run.
And Draw is a Visio replacement, is that right?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I should have said that from the beginning. Everyone knows Visio, and it's a Visio replacement.
Yeah. No, super cool. Yas, anything else? I want to be respectful of your time. You've stayed awake.
You want
all
to go
night.
over the 200 apps?
No, I don't. But as we think of, if you were going to, one final shot to our community to, say, hey, give this thing a try. What would you say to our community?
Yeah, look, it's open source. So I wouldn't just say give it a try, but look at, you can make a difference very easily. Yeah, if there's something you don't like, go ahead and change it. If there's something you think you can do better, build an app. And these apps do then sometimes become part of Nextcloud. Like we had a guy who built a right-click app, so that you could actually right-click in the web interface, which is something we hadn't enabled because most people don't have a finger that is special enough that your phone can see right-click, and our designer wasn't a big fan of that. And so this contributor came up with the idea. He said, look, but there's this 3-dot menu. So what if right-click just always gives you the same? So you're not doing anything special, and come on, you can't argue against a right-click in that case. The designer was like, yeah, that's actually good. And, this app is now part of Nextcloud itself. And I think that's beautiful. And I'd like to see more of that. So please.
And I didn't realize I had it on, and I just tested it. I'm like, that's beautiful. I didn't.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't know that worked.
Yeah.
I just learned something new. There we go. Oh, that's amazing.
But besides Nextcloud.com, are there any community sites if people want to get involved? The best place to go to kind of join the community? What is it in a Reddit community? Is it on Discord? Where's the best place for folks to get
there's
involved?
Reddit, but we have a very active community on help.nextcloud.com. It's just a community forums essentially, and a lot of people are hanging out there. I try to keep Twitter alive very well as well, but people are also on Mastodon. While I'm plugging that, there's an app for that, of course, in Nextcloud. How could there not be? Right. It's called Social, because we all have to be social and all that. There's a Reddit community which is reasonably active. I think actually our file system, the developer, is one of the most active people there. There is a bit of IRC, but we used to use that internally in the company as well, and that makes it then easy to hang out on IRC. But then this Nextcloud Talk thing came, and we're the kind of people who try to eat their own dog food, and therefore now everybody is on the internal Talk channel. And we haven't yet made a bridge to IRC, I think if you've seen the X-Cassidy comics, you know that everything has to bridge to IRC, because 500 years from now, there will still be this one guy that refuses to move over to whatever else it is, but uses the bridge. So we haven't done that yet. But when we do, obviously, we will be and on IRC and on Talk, and you will be able to join us via public Talk channels.
Nice.
We're working on that.
Nice. Jos, thank you thanks for staying up for us. You're an honorary Home Gadget Geeks Home Servers Show Reset FM community member now. Now that you've been on the show, you fit in really, really well with us, by the way.
That's nice to hear. I mean, it was an absolute pleasure to be here, guys, and geek out a little bit with y'all.
Oh yeah.
If we ask you in 6 or 7 or 8 months to come back, would you say yes? Would you join us again?
I'd love to. I hereby promise.
Nice.
Seriously.
Nice.
Yeah, call me in if you want. Every release, we do them every 4 months.
Oh,
we could talk about what's new.
Yeah, that might be interesting. Why don't you ping me as you get close to the next one?
The next one is in January, so just think end of January sometime would work.
Yeah, that could work, and cool. We'll do a quick update on that as well. And so we'll let you get to bed. And fortunately, since you telecommute or since you're a remote worker, you can sleep in a little bit. And we appreciate your time. And we'll let you go. Thanks for jumping in, and appreciate it. Have a great morning, and thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
You guys have a good day, evening, night, sleep too, etc.
We've got hours of podcasting to go. So
all right, have fun then.
Bye. Yes, thank you very much. Have a great night. Or I should say a great morning for you. You can just close your browser and it'll drop you out of here for us. What do you think, Mike?
Like I said, it was fun talking to him because I've been such a fanboy of Nextcloud for a while, and trying to get the inside scoop there. And especially, I thought it was really interesting that first 10 minutes where he was really getting into the data privacy side and kind of the theories behind that and why people choose to go one way or the other. I think he was totally right. When I was thinking about this, it's convenience, right? People go with iCloud, people go with Dropbox, people go with Microsoft because it's so convenient. And I think as they start to get better about making this just completely easy to install everywhere, I love it. But then again, I'm a data security just kind of nut about this, right? Like I want to control everything. I'm willing to put in the work because I really enjoy it. Like tweaking with this stuff is so much fun for me that I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was great.
And Tony just said in the chat, so they have a Slack equivalent. That's what I was thinking of as well as he was describing the talk feature. And I'll admit, without running full Linux, it's a little bit complicated in Docker to get talk set up. I tried it in the past, and really, I gave it like a lunch hour. I had a lunch hour that was just like, oh, maybe it's super easy one-click install. It's not. You need to install like a turn server and things like that. So it's not super easy unless you're running full Linux. But essentially, yes, that's what they have. And I did get it up and running a little bit, and I mean, it's FaceTime quality, and it's peer-to-peer, and it's super simple to get running. And I didn't know. I love the fact that now there's almost a collaborative text file going along with it, because that could be really useful for meetings, especially if your company was set up on this. How easy is that, right? Everyone's looking at. I mean, there's really no easy solution. There are a few. But for the enterprise level, where it's all just integrated in one. So if this was your file sharing, if this was your contacts, if this was your calendar, if your company centralized on this and then using the talk feature, it'd be really convenient.
I've gone on record on this podcast as saying, hey, we both wore red today. We did. What a bunch of stooges. I've gone on record as saying I need a Raspberry Pi like I need a hole in my head. A couple of years ago when it first came out, everybody's like, you're going to do a Raspberry Pi. And we even thought, John Zadler and I even thought we'd do a Raspberry Pi show. It never worked out. And, I've made that statement, but I'm kind of thinking like that would be a great way.
It'd be a great use case for it.
Yeah.
And you can map your Drobo storage over to it. So that could be the storage and then just the Pi as a server.
I'd even put the Pi. I moved the Drobo this week. It's just right over here right now behind me. And that it would sit nicely right on top and just be good. So that maybe Jos maybe talked me into picking up a Raspberry Pi, because it would be, again, I got a bunch of PCs, but I don't know if I want to I don't know if I want to make a full Linux server out of any of them.
No, and Raspberry Pi is the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
You just, put
Yeah.
the light version of Debian
Right.
on it, and go.
Right. No. All right. I'll have to think about that in the process. And anything else you'd add? I got a little review we're going to do pretty quick here. Oh, anything else you'd add, Mike, before I
No,
jump
I think
in?
we covered it all.
Couple reminders. You guys have been bugging me about a meetup like forever. So I'm here announcing our first I almost said home service show. Our first Home Gadget Geeks meetup, London, December 1st, 2019. If you're going to be in London in the area, I talked about this on the show a while back. I'm just joking with Tony too on that. I will be, just a reminder, that's all true. I will be in London December 1st and would love if you're in the London area. I'd even train out to you if necessary, whatever. Love to get together, enjoy a few brews, maybe even a cigar. And I'd love to get together with you. So December 1st, the first Home Gadget Geeks. I've said Home Server Show meetup for too many years. Home Gadget Geeks meetup, London, December 1st. Not really the first one, but love to meet with you in December. Mike, I mentioned a couple weeks ago that I got this dual drive dock. The company called Awesome, spelled ALXUM. They pronounce it just awesome. Actually, they have two brands. Weemy is another brand that they fall under. If you go to alxum.com, you can see these. They're available on Amazon as well. They reached out to me and said, hey, we're doing these drive docks, and would you review one? And I thought, yeah, what the heck? I've been buying a bunch of these because I've been using them in the crypto world to put drives in. In fact, I still have a 4-bay drive that's running a bunch of 3 and 4 terabyte drives. For burst and such. And so I thought, yeah, I'd give it a try. Mike, you mentioned you've got one. I think that's very, very close to it.
Yep.
Let me give you the quick specs on this thing, just really quick as we do it. Again, it's a USB 3. It's aluminum hard drive. So nice hard cover. The ones I've been buying at Best Buy, a little plasticky. You know, you kind of get them plastic.
Yeah,
Again,
this one feels like if it fell off the desk, it might survive it, actually.
Yeah, it would. You could actually step on it or put a monitor on top of it as well. I mean, it's they're pretty sturdy. Standard 2-bay drive, right? 3.5, 2.5-inch drives go in there.
But I love how it has the slot for also a 2.5.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So throw an SSD in there, it also works. It just slides right in that small slot.
No, right in the small slot here.
Yep.
One of the cool things, and I didn't do this a lot, but offline cloning, right? So you don't even have to have it needed connected to a PC to be able to clone off of it. This one's got an LED indicator on the front that tells you how far. So it's got a 25, 50, 75, and 100. It will take drives all the way up to 12 terabytes in here. So if you've got those, if you've been buying those large drives and you want to do it that way, sleep mode within 30 minutes. So if you're not, when you stop using it, it just automatically shuts itself off in the process. I loaded some discs up in it. I showed them. I got them right here. I got a 1 terabyte and 750 that I had available that I threw in there and ran it up and pushed a little burst, some burst plots to it, move some data around. Works great. And so these have been really handy for me. I actually have 3 of these, which is I never thought. I've got a 1-bay, I've got a 2-bay. Although to be honest with you, the 2-bay died after about I don't know 6 or 7 months. One of the cheap plastic ones I bought at Best Buy. It's sitting in my recycle box. And then I got a 4-bay that I'm using as well. And so this will be a nice replacement for the 2-bay that's in here. Again, awesome, alxum.com if you want to check those out, available on Android as well. I'll have a special link in this show. So HGG420. I'll have a link from them if you want to think about purchasing or buying it. Just a good standard. Price will depend. Go ahead and look it up when you go take a peek at it, but appreciate them sending it out. It's actually going to replace the 2-bay that I broke.
And you'll be a good user. You should give us a report in 6 or 7 months, because with burst, you hit those all the time, all day, 24/7. So you're a pretty good stress test user for that kind of unit. So you have to tell us in a few months, how well it's holding up.
No, they run and they get hot. Yeah. These drives, in fact, the 4-bay, the drives get so hot. I have an extra fan that sits on the outside just to keep those drives cool because they run so much. So you're right. That'll be one of those things that, but already it feels a little more solid than some of the other ones that I have bought to get that done. ALXUM, thanks for sending those out. And like Mike, like you said, we'll test it over the next couple months. I just gave it a quick week-long test to see how it does in the long run with burst. Mike, we've come to the end of another week.
We have.
Yeah. Anything, any tech you're working on or anything new on your side of things?
Oh, Storage. Or storage. Why do I still, Jim? I still stay.
That's
say
how we know
Storage.
it.
That's how we know it, right?
It's
So
fine.
I'm gonna keep saying Storage. Storage. Yeah, that has been a fun little project, and so Unraid has in the community applications has a storage Docker. So it has the image in there. Super easy. You're up and running. Takes no time at all. I did there's some terminal stuff you have to do. I did it on a separate machine. It's a little bit easier. You have to essentially get a node set up. So they send you a unique key. You have to generate. Essentially, you're doing almost like a blockchain style generating a key, and so you have to get up to 30 level difficulty. So the more power you have on that computer. So I did it on my Mac. It took 10 seconds. Then you sign it with your unique key that they email you. So you have to wait a few days. So if you're going to do this, go right now to storage.com and sign up. It says they're in beta, but you'll get your key within probably 2 days, maybe even sooner. Just be ready though, because if you kind of let this thing run wild, and they are pretty good in the Docker container about being able to limit it. You tell it the storage that you're going to give it. So I set in Unraid, I just set up a new share for storage. And then in the app, it tells you, point me to where you want me to store the stuff and how much do you want to give it to me? What's your bandwidth allocation? And I let it kind of run wild. And I will say there are some unique things here if you're running it on Unraid with Docker. Typically, the default is to give it 10 seconds. When you tell it to stop, it'll give it 10 seconds before it kills the app. Well, storage takes a lot longer than that, and then you end up with corrupt databases. So, and there's a lot of terminal stuff you have to do to get those restored. I've had to do it twice now because I forgot to manually, because you can manually, it takes 2 seconds to manually stop it with a 300-second stopper, and I just keep forgetting. So I ran an Unraid update, and obviously that killed everything. And then I rebooted one time, that killed it on its own. So I've had to rebuild the databases twice, which now the way storage runs, it actually does a lot of uptime checking, but it has a great dashboard now, a web dashboard for your usage. So I can go in and see, I'll actually just real quick, we have 2 seconds here. I'll just show it and how it looks for the dashboard, just because it's kind of neat. This is the new thing they just released this month. Maybe last month.
Might be good to come over to the YouTube channel and check out this part. You can share your screen, and I'll bring it up full screen here for us if you want.
Yeah.
Good way to do that.
I will do that. Okay, so can you guys see it now?
Nope, not yet. Share it with me. Share it into the video here so I can see it.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah, share screen
it's
now.
telling me that my share screen is blocked for some reason.
Ah, bummer. Well, this is, we mentioned this at the beginning of the show. Storage might be the one that gets through all the cruft of blockchain and crypto. And so I keep my eye on it. I'm just afraid with my 1 terabyte limit that I'm going to blow through that pretty quick. So when you said, yeah, it's kind of chatty, I was like, okay, probably not time for me to do it. Just as a quick update on the other side of things, on the burst side of things, there are now a bunch of burst derivatives. Burst and Boom and LHD and HDD and BHD, and those are all burst equivalents. And I've been working with Ken on some of those and staying close to those. They all use the same plots that we did on bursts. Well, sort of. And it's been fun. Been fun to keep up. There's a lot of things still going on there, so that's still rolling. I'm not sure I'd go out and buy any additional hard drives today, but man, that was sure a lot of fun to get that done in those days. And so, no, we won't do any crypto in the post show. We did some updating last week. The crypto market's kind of dropped out a little bit, and so we're at 773, 75, I think, somewhere in the sevens. I'm at this point, so it continues to roll. And if you want to have a conversation about it, or you got any questions around it, you can send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. We want to say anything else you want to add?
Well, I was just going to say one final thing on storage. Yeah. If you want to know what they're up to, go to their YouTube channel. They just had their Q3 town hall. Great. And the question and answer at the end, actually, you could probably skip the announcements, go to the question and answer, because people ask the real good questions, and you can go watch that and get all the updates.
They're really pro about it.
They're very pro. They have a game plan. They address questions. They're very transparent. I really enjoy what they're doing on over.
Did we mention on the show they're partnering, or they're doing some work with Nextcloud?
Yeah, they are.
Did we say that?
They're partnering with a lot of places like Nextcloud. I think Synology is actually another one they're partnering with. So companies like that you could end up using them as the back end for something like a Nextcloud. So right,
Yeah.
and it's all secure, and it's secure client side with storage, so you know that your stuff is going to be securely stored. And the speed, really the big updates from storage was the speed and the reliability. I think they're giving 4 or 5 nines of reliability now on their stuff. So they're really trying to rival Amazon AWS, and we'll see. We'll see where it
Yeah.
goes. But I love being a node, and they go public. I think in December is when their new public open it up to everyone goes live.
I think they got a shot. It's something.
We'll see.
We'll have to see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Don't forget, we want to thank everyone who supports us on Patreon, theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. We'll get you there if you want to support us. $5 plans available if you want to jump in. We even have a month long if you want to support, you or your business wants to support the live stream. And that means you'll get mentioned on the show every week. There'll be some branding on the live stream a bit as well. $100 a month gets you 4 of the shows that we do in a month. And if you want to support, you can do that on Patreon. You can do it for 1 month or you can do it for multiple months. So if you want to jump in and get that done, you can check that out. theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. I mentioned theaverageguy.tv/Discord if you want to join that group. It hasn't been joined in a while, but if you want to do that, you can. And then theaverageguy.tv/Facebook. Again, I haven't had a new person in there in a while, but the community continues to roll on and some great conversations if you want to join us that way. If you want to send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv gets that done. We do want to thank Christian and the AverageGuy.tv platform, both web and media hosting, powered by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust. Just tonight, as I was logging in to update for the show, I noticed my SSL certificate had gone in for the first time in 5 years, and Christian had gone, what's the word? Expired. That's the word I'm looking for. And I pinged Christian and I was like, hey, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm working on it. I forgot to commit something. It's done. Boom. That's how great it is from a hosting perspective. And so if you want to know, plans start at $10 and visit maplegrovepartners.com. We thank Christian for support. We're trying for a Cyber Frontiers next week. So we're hoping to get that one in as well. And then don't forget, you can download the app, Home Gadget Geeks.com, and I have a whole bunch of new coupons on for HelloFresh. So if you want to jump into that, I gave a couple away the other day. So folks are trying it out. We are still doing it, Mike. Just dynamite.
Totally agree.
It's just I've got a bag in the fridge right now. That'll be tomorrow night. It's just dinner's taken care of. Send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv if you want to try it out free for a week. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv live. We'll stay around for a little bit of post-show. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody. Yeah, we did grilled cheese and tomato soup tonight. That was dynamite.
From HelloFresh?
No, just our own. Okay. Just our own. No, just our own. I was expecting to come home and cook a HelloFresh meal. And
yeah. There's nothing better than grilled cheese and tomato soup. I love it.
Oh, it's so good. And you know what else is good? This rum.
That was not that rum.
I'm still trying to. Okay. I poured that's as much as I've drank since we started. Not very much. Not very much. Justin, thanks again for this. Well, I'll take it over to Mike's, and we'll enjoy this together. Maybe with cigars, it'd be better. Maybe
we'll
not.
See.
Dude, that cigar from you weren't on the show with Ed last week.
Yeah, I wasn't there last week.
Okay, here's the deal. I'm pretty sure I'm going to smoke that other cigar that Ed sent because it's freaking dynamite.
Go ahead. No,
I'm going to bring it over. I am going to bring it over. He sent it for you, but let me tell you, he said during the show, is there any chance that cigar is going to make it to Mike? I said,
probably not.
Not a single one.
We'll see. It depends on how long it takes for Jim and I to get together.
No, I'm going to hold it for you, dude. First of all, it's a $30 cigar. So yeah. Okay. So there's that. And we didn't quite know. Let me tell you how this experience went. I didn't really talk about this on the show last week. So it was Wednesday night and I'm like, I can't have Ed on the show and not smoke a cigar, right?
Yeah.
I can't do that. So Wednesday night I went on the deck. Sarah came out with me and cut it and light it. And I was like, oh, like And he said, don't get used to these things because they're like, it's definitely
nice.
pricey.
Yeah.
And once you get through about 3 draws, man, it settled into just one of the smoothest. And even Sarah said she tried it and she was like, wow, this is
That big
really
of a difference,
good.
huh?
Yeah.
That noticeable. Wow.
Yeah. So she says, and this is the part that was not on the show last week. Justin's hold on. Well, since we're in the post show, Justin's like that. I'm sure he's referring.
He's
to,
referring to the drink.
It's awful. So she goes, we got to get the good bourbon out. And we had bought some small batch Jefferson's that was made in rum barrels and floated in the ocean. So we broke that out and had that together, and then kind of I smoked most of the cigar, but she had some of it too. And she was like, this bourbon, I can't drink any other bourbon than this from here on out. So we had the kind of the best bourbon we've ever had, and maybe the best cigar we've ever had.
And now your life has changed.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to go back to anything else. Like, and he's like, so on the show we talked. It's really a celebration cigar. It's kind of, you do one a year type deal. But if you buy it, I think it's 8 or 10, you get it in a ceramic container that is its own humidification system. So they come completely humidified for you when they come in. Ed did a great job. I didn't thank him. That's such a huge mistake. I forgot to thank him at the front. He did a great job, and it was super fun. I had somebody say they felt like the podcast needed a Surgeon General's warning. I think it was Joe at the beginning. So super great. Sorry we missed you.
Yeah.
I'm starting to wonder if this is intentional though. Is Hannah putting the squeeze on you so that you don't smoke cigars and drink with me? Is that what's going on here?
No.
Okay. Are you sure?
100%.
Like wink twice.
Wink twice.
If she's abusing you.
No, we have had something every single weekend. Like this weekend, got my buddy from California. He's in town. He's staying with us. And last week, Emmett's birthday party, her family staying with us. And it's just, we've had stuff every single weekend. It's been nuts.
Yeah, Joe said it wasn't him. I see, who was that? Somebody on the Discord group that said that. It doesn't matter. They're probably not listening anyways. Justin also sent us some acids, which would be a really good, easy evening. Havana Garage when you meet me down there, and we pull that off. So I got a few of those in there, and actually they were a little dry, so they are getting all humidified back up to where they should be. So it's a good show. We missed you. It was good. We got to figure out how. I was out in your neck of the woods today for about 15 minutes. I went out to the Apple store. One of our students was having trouble with her Mac, and so I told her I'd meet her out there at the store just to make sure she got a Genius and some of those other kinds of things. So I got her situated. But yeah, I was out in your neck of the woods today. We definitely need to figure out a way to get this thing pulled off. Yeah. Well, it's super good. It is. I got to stop. I got to slow down a little bit. Right before Tim left, 4 nights in a row, because I didn't want to miss an opportunity with him. He was just here. And so 4 nights in a row.
That's a valid reason to do it 4 nights in a row. You should not be ashamed of that.
It's not good.
Yeah, it's valid.
Not good. Not good indeed. Changed some things around in the studio here. So I took remember I had a monitor that was sitting right here?
You're right. Is it
up?
Do I see it up there?
I moved it. No, there's always been one sitting right there.
Yeah.
That's actually my Chromecast one. So if I need to Chromecast anything, I can throw that up there. No, I slid it around next to the rest of the ones over here. So I have a 4 monitor bank now in this spot. They're all super close. And then I've got one hanging. You can't kind of see it, but I got one kind of hanging off the wall here. That's the NVIDIA Shield and Xbox dedicated monitor now.
Okay.
Surface moved over here where you can see it. Typically, it's running. I've got some JS coin running on it right now.
I was just gonna say it's either Burst or JS Coin.
Yeah.
Too.
No, it's running some JS coin on it. I think I have about 28,000 of those things now.
Okay.
They're worth like nothing. So
100th of a penny.
maybe not even that much.
Yeah.
But it's kind of fun. It just runs on the surface. It's kind of something to have on there. The app that runs the humidor, the humidistat inside, they updated their app and they actually put before you had to click in to get to the temperature and humidity. And now it's right on the front page. And I was like, nice. So now that's sitting the humidor is at 68 degrees and 74% humidity, which is a little weird because I put some dry cigars in there and I thought it would bring down that humidity, but
it's been sticking right at that 75 level, right?
Yeah, 74, 75. I cooled it off it got a little warm in here last week when I had all the lights on. It just kind of warmed stuff up. So it had gotten into the middle 70s in here. And of course I started freaking out because Ed started talking about, the beetle worms that if your cigars get to 80 degrees, they run the risk. If they sit it there too long, they run the risk of those, the beetle maggots, because they lay eggs inside the tobacco leaves. And they do the tobacco manufacturers try to do some things to get them out, but it's not always a guarantee that they won't. You smoke some of those. That's
wow, I had no idea.
Oh yeah, not all the time. And
okay,
not in every cigar, but it's it's a possibility.
So it's the heat, not the humidity, though.
It's the heat.
Okay.
Yeah, they get up to a certain temperature and then they can hatch, and then they'll eat through. They come out and eat through the cigar, and they eat through the cellophane. And they go to the other cigars, so you have to kind of watch. I moved him to the other room, but I really need to move him back in here so I can just kind of keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a risk. That's a risk with cigars.
Interesting.
So yeah. So all right. Anything else?
No, I'm good.
Doing all right.
Who do we have next week?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's look. Let us look. I scored. So Richard Gunther had, what's his name? Hold on 1 second. From Life Door on. Hold on 1 moment. I just was talking to him today. His name is Joel Sellinger, and he is the CEO.
I saw your tweet.
Yeah, he's the CEO of Life Door, and they make a little device that, if in case of a fire, closes the door. I have a new door to put on, so I think I'm going to buy the device and install it with the door. And he was a really good interview on Richard's show, Home On. But it was a 15-minute interview. Richard gets right to the point. I was like, man, we can really stretch this out for like 45, 50 minutes. He was really, really good. So I am working on him right now. So hopefully he'll come on. And then next week, for the next 2 weeks, you and me. And then Rich Hay is coming on. Dwayne Robinson is coming back. You think about this. Well, no, I think the Friday after Thanksgiving, Sammy and I, she really likes podcasting with you. That's why I said that. But
okay,
her and I are going to jump on. You're probably doing family stuff, but her and I are going to jump on and catch up with her and the tech and her job and some of those kinds of things. So that'll be my first ever post Thanksgiving. Usually I take that whole weekend off.
Yeah.
But she's going to be home. So I'm going to podcast with her. She's doing a really good job.
I'll probably be out of town. That's the only thing.
So that'll probably,
that's like Thursday, Thanksgiving, right?
That'll probably
Friday.
work. Yeah. It'll probably work for just the two of us. Anyways.
Okay.
It's probably better that way. So we'll catch up with her. She just likes hanging out with you. She thinks you're pretty cool.
Oh,
so
I think she's cool too. That's perfect.
The weekend after Thanksgiving, I'm in London. So no, we're not going to do anything.
Okay.
I moved Aaron. It's just too hard.
Yeah.
I moved Aaron Lawrence to the 12th
of December.
Cool. Yeah. So, and then I've got some returning guests working on Paul Braren at this point. I need to get him back. He doesn't know that, but I need to get Paul Braren kind of back on here. I would like to get Mike Howard back. He's really struggling. So I want to get him on, just kind of catch up with him and hear about how he's handling all the therapy and all the chemicals are pumping into his body to save him from cancer. So he's Micah is going to come back after the first of the year, and we're going to get a complete Peloton breakdown. So
All right.
bike, device, technology, app, community, which is
Great.
have you looked at these Pelotons at all?
Yeah. I was on like the verge of doing the bike. And I still kind of am.
You might not want to come
I
when
know.
she's
I think Hannah might be down for it though. We're slowly deciding. What
$58 a month now. You can buy them and put them on a monthly plan. I mean, they're doing everything they can to get those.
Plus, I think, and then 50 or something for the subscription. So it's like
yeah, no, right. That's for the bike, and then
Yeah.
$12 or whatever, or $15 for the subscription,
No, I think
something
it's
like
more
that. Tajowski said it was Bust Out who said that. Thanks for finding that, Joe. That was the one. He's the one who said in the chat room. And then we got to get Jay rescheduled. So probably January time frame. We'll get Jay back. Madison, talk a little bit about some of the work that he's been doing. I need to get the Unraid guy back. What was his name? Patrick? No, Patrick was at Habitat. I'll find that. So, but we definitely need to get him back early January as well. I need to get Dave McCabe back in here. I'll probably get Dave. I'll figure out find a slow time for him. He's a tough guy to get back in. Who else, Mike? Who else should we ask? What do you think? Is there anybody?
I mean, that's a lot of our main.
Anybody standing out? We'll get in the spring. We'll get Mark back in for barbecue.
Yep.
Ed was funny. Ed Sullivan. He said to me, "Hey, you guys talk about barbecue. Why can't we do a show on cigars?" That was his pitch to me. You do a barbecue show. Okay. Well, and we did one on drinking too, which was with Cody.
True.
So,
So
Cody
we've covered all the bases.
we really have with that.
If we lived in Colorado, we'd probably do a weed show.
Would we?
I don't know. Probably not.
Would you be comfortable doing a weed show?
If I was in a state where it was legal and it was something I did, sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if you didn't do it, say you lived in Colorado.
Yeah.
You'd be okay with it?
Yeah. Why not? I mean,
no, I know. I just
like drinking.
Yeah. Is it seen that way? Do you think most corporations see it that way?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. But
it just that's such a, and Keith Lunsford one of our listeners, he and his family are into it from a publicity standpoint. And I just always kind of wonder, I've here in Nebraska, it's not legal yet. It will be. We'll be the last state though.
We will be the last state. Yeah.
We will definitely be.
Yeah. I can honestly say and truthfully say it's something I've never gotten into. Even as a young kid, anything like that, college, never got into it. But from an outsider's point of view, I mean, I don't know. My wife and I have the conversation all the time. Like, okay, let's pretend it is legal when our kids are older.
Right.
Would you rather them make a bad decision, getting really high on weed, or would you rather have them get super drunk? And like those two, you always have the gateway drug argument, right, and all that stuff. But that aside, it's like, I don't know.
So Joe reminds me that this would have been this would have been the perfect show.
You're
to
right.
do because it's 420. This show is 420. This would have been the perfect weed show to do. Yeah. Justin says we need to do pipes. Have you smoked pipe?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
Yeah. Once. Yep.
I need to learn. I guess I need to learn how to do that.
Weed's not legal, but have you noticed in Omaha just like the explosion of like CBD signs, stores? We sell CBD oil here. We sell all that.
No, really?
Oh my gosh, it's everywhere.
And what's CBD?
CBD is like the oil from weed that's not
so
THC.
It's the cannabis. It's the cannabis oil.
Yeah, but it's not like the stuff. Apparently, it's not the stuff that can get you high. It's like a therapeutic thing. That's why it's legal here.
Okay.
I don't know. Because I was shocked the first time I saw it. I always thought CBD was the stuff, the whole thing. Yeah. And then I looked into it, and it's legal in Nebraska. I'm like, what's the difference? And apparently it's like the therapeutic side. But now I drive around and I'm inundated with it everywhere. They're just like, we sell CBD oil, and we have CBD lotion, we have CBD this and that. I feel like that's just taken over.
This spring, I'll be car shopping. So we'll start thinking about we'll probably have a few more car tech episodes as I replace my '06 Civic. It's gonna move that down to the daughter, and she'll take it with her back to school next summer, in the spring. So I imagine there'll be some car tech kind of episodes coming up as well. It's been kind of fun. I'll admit it's been kind of fun branching out a little bit and bringing in those tech, kind of weaving in those. I mean, it is Home Gadget Geeks, so it allows me to really do kind of a ton of stuff. I've been contemplating with Amazon's announcements, coming out with all the new products and some of the new Echo devices that are out there. I'm glad I changed the name of mine from Echo to the other thing. So there are some interesting, there's just, again, in the home automation space, it's getting tight and it's getting good. These devices are really starting to come together. They are consolidating, which is a little worrisome, so to speak. But I think there's going to be some really cool things. I am really excited to get the guy from Life Door on, Joel.
Yeah,
he was really good. Like, I almost teared up when he was talking about, like, it was just so good. It was so real and so important with fire safety. One of those kinds of things where you're like, he did a stat, and we'll talk about this on the show too, but in the 50s, if your house caught fire, you had 17 minutes in most cases to get out of it. Like, things just didn't burn that fast. Okay. Today, with our synthetics,
I didn't even think about that.
3 minutes.
Really?
You have 3 minutes to get out, and before you're inundated. And it's so really important to get the door shut, because of course you get an extra 5 minutes or so if the door is shut. And depending on the construction of the door, of course, a hollow would not do as well as a solid core door and some of those kinds of things. It got me thinking, we do all this fire, I've got all these smoke detectors and stuff in the house, and the house caught fire at night, I would probably sleep through a good chunk of it.
I probably would too.
Right. And so it was just such a good story, and he's just such a good guy. I want to hear a little bit about his story, and then I want to talk about some future fire safety stuff. So that was, I heard that podcast. Was that yesterday or today? Maybe it was yesterday. I'd listened to that in the morning, and I went to work and contacted him on Twitter right away. I was like, dude, would you be willing to do this? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, super cool. So, about that, Justin asked if I'm going to get a Tesla, and there's not a chance.
Really?
No chance.
Oh, okay.
No, no. Done my electric car. I don't have a desire. Christian was hanging out with a buddy the other night who had a car that was malfunctioning. He was like, "Would you remind me to never buy an electric car?" That was his exact. When I'm thinking about it, you tell me no. I was like, I'll totally dad out on you. So no, I'm gonna go Subaru. Subaru, I have a hard time. I'm having a hard time because I really want a truck, but trucks suck in Nebraska.
Why?
Like, well, the winter traction for a truck is just terrible.
They're not that bad anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, if you get a half ton, you're fine.
Yeah, no, I just don't want a truck. I really want all wheel, and I really love driving my wife's Subaru. And so I think what I'm going to do is get Subaru and put a towing package on it, and then get a trailer for the stuff I need to haul. I don't need a truck full time. I just don't.
Yeah. And
I don't need an electric truck. That's for sure. That's like the worst of both worlds. So yeah, I'm kind of leaning. I do like the all-wheel drive. I love the Subaru and the way it handles. I love it the way it handles in the winter. Love the way it handles in the summer. I mean, that thing is the Subarus are great.
Yeah.
So, Justin says, has electric, never had problems. Yeah, I know. I'm sure. It's one example. I've done my batteries. Just yeah.
I'm still excited about them. I think I might go with one. We'll see.
It'll
be a while. It'll be a few years. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
someday.
That's going to be my gift to myself when my boys get out of daycare.
Yeah, because you have a whole bunch of money. Unless you're paying, you're going to send them to private school?
No.
Okay.
No, because I grew up in the Elkhorn School District and I loved it. So That's where we're at now, and I think they would really enjoy it.
Joe says hard to beat the lack of blind spots and a pickup, and that's true. That's true. Although some of these big pickups have some pretty big. I was looking at some of the full size Toyota. If I was going to go with a pickup, I'd probably
go Tundra.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably where I'd go.
I don't mind the Tacomas.
Yeah.
A little bit. You still get the truck, but it's smaller.
Yep.
They do great on any terrain. I mean, those things. Oh yeah. I mean, those things. The people use those for rock crawling in Colorado, going through mud, going through snow. I mean, those things are the all-terrain. Yeah, they have everything. They even have a crawl feature, meaning like you can take your foot off the gas and you set the crawl monitor, and it'll just slowly go, and you're just riding the brake, and it'll climb over stuff. Oh, they're super cool.
Well, maybe I need to put a list together.
Yeah.
Of like what's important to me, and kind of think through this. I don't know. This is going to be like on these big purchasing decisions, Mike. Either I have to just do it. Like
you guys have been moving for the last how long I've known you. We're moving soon. You said that, I think the very first episode on with you. We're moving soon. You know.
I have said that. I just don't plug my ears. Yes, I have been saying that since like 1976. Yeah. I think. But I don't want to move. Like I I'm dragging my feet a little bit on this thing. Yeah. No, that's recorded, but I shall never listen to this part.
No,
I really don't. I really
cut
don't
that part out.
Yeah, I don't really want to move. But she does, so I have to say that. I have to. I just don't really want to. Gentlemen, thank you. Hang tight for 1 second. Yeah. Thanks for staying late. Appreciate you guys and what you mean to the community, that you come out every week and join us. I had a lot of fun tonight. So thanks. Chat room, you guys did great. Super fun. I just really enjoyed that interview. So thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys next time.